You're welcome to Find the Link, Relationships, and our topic today is about the art of presentation. It's going to be an interesting topic, and I have Mrs. Sophie Jolaosho, who's going to be taking the session with me today. And you're all welcome. Thank you for showing up nicely.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Welcome. Okay. So while we're getting started, I will just start sharing the screen and go straight to today's meeting.
Now, can you send the scene?
I think we can mute everybody now because we're about to start. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so the art of presentation. And that's me and Sister Sophie. And I'm happy to tell you I made that poster myself with a little bit of help. And we're finding the link. But why is presentation important? The importance of presentation stems from the outcomes that it could bring of what is being presented. And that could be anything. So it could be a person, it could be an idea, but presentation is important. It's not the main thing, but we cannot say it's unimportant. So my outline today is going to border on types of presentation, the state of preference of the recipients of that presentation. What do we think is the purpose of presentation? Outcomes of presentations in relationships, and a few examples, after which I'm going to hand over to Sister Sophie. And being a foodie, that is an example of a well-presented plate, shrimps on skewers, eggs with tomatoes, fried plantain, fried yam in the latest fashion. So a lot of thought has gone into this presentation. Whether or not it ends up being a delicious dish is debatable, but it is well presented. Okay, so types of presentation. I'm going to talk briefly about the look, the talk, and the walk. And that's because we're talking about relationships in particular. So how does this person look? How does this person talk? Or how does this person walk? And it might be a bit different from something you've seen somewhere else. Because I can't say I got this from a book somewhere, or this is the direction that we're taking today. So about the looks, for those of us that may be Bible students, you'll probably be familiar with the verse that says, appearances, man looks at the appearances, but God looks at the heart. But because we are human beings, we do look at the appearances. And sometimes after a while, or due to people's actions, their hearts become obvious to us. First impressions may not be the best impressions, but they may last a very long time. And this is also about putting your best foot forward. That's what this talk about looks is. So what is a haughty look? Haughty might be an old word for a proud look. What is a princely look? How does a harlot look? A harlot, a politically correct term, is a commercial sex worker. Can looks be trusted? My answer would be no. Are they important? And my answer would be yes. Okay, so a haughty look will be someone that is proud and looks in a particular way. I would want to describe it, I'll probably say the person is looking down on other people and feels big in themselves. And sometimes it's obvious from the way they look. The opposite to be someone who is humble. Sometimes some people look contrite, they're not very humble, but they present that persona of being a very contrite and humble and meek person. But that is a look as well. A princely look would be someone that is quite regal, someone that has a bearing of a prince or a princess. And some people would say maybe that's a charming look, that's a look of royalty. A princely look or a kingly look or a queenly look is the kind of look every child of God should have, because we are children of the king. How does a harlot look? We might have a few ideas of how someone that works in a red light district would look. And that would probably be seductive, in a seductive way or in a seductive manner is the way that person is likely to look. Sometimes the lines are blurred because we might see people that look exactly like this, but might be really good people at heart. Okay, so the talk, proud talk. Some people might cover this kind of talk with a thin veneer of humility. So they sound very humble, but in the middle of their discussion, you realize that in the midst of their humility, they're still putting everybody else down, or they're talking down on themselves, but in the midst of that, they're still putting other people down. And that's a kind of proud talk. Foolish talk. There's a biblical verse that says there's more hope for a fool than for someone who thinks he knows everything, that thinks everything of himself. So there's foolish talk, definitely. And sometimes people talk foolishly without being aware. And it's usually better not to say anything than to say something foolish. So talking foolishly would also include butting into conversations that do not concern you in a very brash manner. That would be a foolish talk. Or not considering what you want to say before you say it. That would be foolish talk as well. Wise talk would be well-considered talk, well thought out talk, appropriate talk. And there's a term that is about putting apples of gold in settings of silver. That's saying the right thing at the right time. That will count as wise talk. Of course, we might have other variations about tonality and talking gently and not being harsh in talking. Those are other kinds of talk. And we know gentle words can make anger go away, can diffuse tension. So that's very important as well. And that would be part of wise talk. And of course, there's no talk. And sometimes people don't talk because they have nothing to say. Sometimes people do not talk and it is actually a sign of wisdom. And some people do not talk because they're not given an opportunity to talk. But this is all about presentation as well. So sometimes it is appropriate to talk and sometimes it is inappropriate to talk. And then the walk, there will be a confident walk. That's someone who knows who they are. We've discussed identity in a previous meeting. So someone who has a strong sense of identity would walk in a particular fashion, walk confidently, going confidently towards a goal. They know what they're about. They know what they want. They know where they're going. That is a confident walk. Someone who is focused will not be someone who is distracted and turning at every corner, trying to see what's happening here, what's happening there. I was just passing, I decided to branch here, as we say in Nigeria, branching. But they're focused in their walk. Because I live in the UK, if you've been to London before, you see people walking into the underground stations and they're very focused, as in they're just walking directly out of the station. They're not turning here or there. If you want to have an idea of how focused people can walk, then that would be a good place to do people watching. Some people walk slowly for various reasons. And even though this is about presentation, sometimes other people are presented to us. When people walk very slowly, it could be a sign of old age. It could be a sign that they are not very well physically. or it could be a sign that they are not in a very good place in their state of mind. So they're walking slowly. Slow walk might be a sign of being dejected. So that's something to note about ourselves or about other people when we see them presented to us, because presentation is both ways. At different times, we're presented to other people. At other times, they are presented to us. Fast walk will be someone who has a goal in sight and probably has a time frame to it. That kind of person will probably be walking quite fast in the direction of their goal. So about the state or preference of recipients. This can be based on different things. So sometimes you see someone for the first time and the person did not sleep well. So no matter how you were presented, the person is not in a frame of mind to appreciate your presentation. Same thing, the person might not have a taste for your presentation. So your presentation is not bad in itself, but there's something about it that puts that person off. And in that sense, we don't have any jurisdiction over other people's preferences. But this slide is just to let us know that it is not one-sided, and this is one part that we might not have a lot of influence on. Okay, so there's the indifferent person who is the receiver of this presentation, and whether you're well-dressed, well-presented, or not well-presented, it doesn't really matter because they're indifferent. And then there's the one that's eager, very interested, like, you know, when you're in a panel and you're interviewing someone and the person is impressing you, you're eager, you're more interested, you want to know more, what do you bring to our company, things like that. Sometimes it's the same way when we meet people, and it should be the way when we meet people, that we're interested and we're eager to know them. Then there's the prejudiced. Some people are prejudiced. So some people have a thing against people that are on the big side, or they have a thing against people that are very slim, or they have a thing against people that are extremely fair. And if they see that, they already have a prejudice, or they have a prejudice against people that have a H factor, or people that talk with a particular accent. And immediately they just hear that, it just puts them off. It doesn't matter what else is right. Once that part is there, because they're prejudiced, they just tune off. And then there are people that are double-minded, so they have double standards. They see something today, they think it's good. They see the same thing tomorrow, they think it is not good. Well, double-minded people are very difficult to deal with, and they don't really gain very much either. Now to the next slide. This slide is actually a bit of an illustration about what I'm talking about. So this looks like a well-presented plate. We can see chicken on one side. We can see a leaf of basil in the center of the jollof rice. We can see some cooked onion on there as well. And we can see some raw tomatoes by the side. Now, for someone who is vegan, it doesn't matter how well presented this plate is. The look of the chicken there is a complete put off, and the presentation doesn't matter. For someone who particularly dislikes onions, or the sight of onions in food, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is either. They'll probably not touch this plate, or they'll spend the rest of the afternoon picking out the onion. And then for someone that doesn't like raw tomato or raw things in food, seeing the tomato there would also deter from the ambience of this beautiful plate. And I hope that is an example of how other people's preferences can affect our presentation. So the purpose of presentation could, for example, be to land a client, to find a suitor or a spouse, to make a statement, to feel among, to fit a specific event or meet a need. And I'll just try and break that down a bit. So to land a client, for instance, you want to land a multinational company, you want them to do some business with you. There's a way you're going to present yourself. There's a way you're going to present your documents. There's a way you're going to enter the meeting, just so that you create the impression that you are capable. It's almost like you're auditioning for a role. Same thing to find a suitor or a spouse. It's not too different. Every day we are creating impressions. Every day people are forming opinions about you based on what is presented. So the side you present is important. It's good to feel confident in yourself, but it's also good to know that there is a part that other people see that you might not be aware of, and to consciously tailor that part so that what is seen is what you want to be seen and not just what is available. For instance, you might be a good person, but the way you present yourself is very brash, very unconcerned, very disillusioned. That's not quite what you want to present to someone else. You want to present that you're capable, you can do this, you're pleasant if you are. And if you're not, you probably want to work on it anyway. So you might want to make a statement. So some people want to make a statement that they are rich. So they appear in public in a particular vehicle. They appear with an entourage. They're trying to make a statement, or they appear somewhere wearing nothing at all, or they appear with very bright colors just to be seen. They're trying to make a statement that I have arrived, I'm here. Other people do things to fill among. So it's not really them, it's the people they're with. And this is why our company matters. So in a setting where a young man walks with a group of people in which their trousers are always down and the crack of the backside is always showing, and they wear earrings and they wear chains and they have tattoos on their chest or their hands. If you walk with that kind of group, you might want to feel among and start looking like them. And that is just because you're trying to fit with your peers. Or if you're a woman and you might be a working class person, but all the people that you walk with have a tattoo across their chest in a very visible area. And you might start feeling among and decide you want to be presented in that way, just so that you can feel at home among your friends. Of course, to fit a specific event or need, it will be it will not be appropriate to go to the swimming pool fully dressed from top to bottom wearing winter clothing. So that would be to fit a specific event, which would be swimming in this case. Okay, that is a well-presented plate. If you are in a kindergarten class, the benefit of this well-presented plate is probably wasted because they wouldn't know the value of the presentation or why it is arranged in this particular fashion. They wouldn't really care much if everything was mixed together. Now, outcomes of presentation could include things like delight, meaning you're really happy with what you see presented. So sometimes the first impression, you can have an idea that this person is intelligent, this person is brilliant, this person is bright, this person is ambitious, this person would be maybe a good husband material or good wife material, and you're excited. So that is delight. Other things could be like maybe disgust. You might be put off by what the person says or does, or the mannerism. For instance, if you were talking to somebody and the person was picking their nose throughout the time they were talking to you, you might be a bit disgusted, unless that kind of thing you fancy is something you fancy. Then you might be on a quest of discovery after meeting somebody. That might be something that maybe the person has piqued your interest and you want to know more. The person has left more questions in their wake, but you are interested in knowing more. That could be an outcome. And there could be indifference, meaning it doesn't matter whether you came or you went. The presentation didn't matter. And that would be rather unfortunate because it's always good to leave a good impression wherever we go. Okay, a few points to note. It is important not to judge a book by its cover. And that's why we meet so many amazing people that do not fit in a particular way. But when we get to meet them more, or we get interested and we know about them, we know about their journey, and we speak to them and we give them a chance, then we realize that they're amazing people. So it's good not to be prejudiced in any way because it could rid us of so many beautiful opportunities. So it doesn't matter if somebody does not end up being your spouse, or the person might end up being your business partner, or the links to your business partner, for instance. So it's important to accept people for who they are and not just based on how they look. Be interested in others. They are unique in their own way. They have their own stories. Extend grace and kindness. You might be needing it someday yourself. Your path and journey is different. And the final point there would be positive about yourself and about others because it flows out of you like a perfume. And here, I'll just talk briefly about examples. So the undisputed pimp. So there was this young lady named Tama. She had a plan to deliberately look like a harlot so that she could lure somebody. Now, the preference for the person she wanted to lure was that the person was a widow and he was open to this kind of adventure. So she caught him. And so some of us might have an idea about how people can attempt to catch a young man or a young woman by their appearance. And then by the time they discover who they really are, the deed is done, the damage is done. And that was the example that happened with this young lady. So she had a plan to get a particular man. She got him. She got the evidence she wanted to implicate him, and he needed to pay for it. And then there was a young man who was planning to be a king, but he wasn't a king at this time, found himself in enemy territory and started drooling saliva and acting like he was mentally deranged. And he had the impact he wanted because his enemies at that time decided to say there was no need for them to waste time on this kind of person, and they decided to send him away, which was what he wanted. So their sending him away was his being delivered out of their hands, because that was very deliberate. So it's important to know that people deliberately create a facade of who they are, but as people who are genuine, it's very important that we're authentic in whatever we do, that the image we present is similar to what we stand for and for who we are. And then there was the runner with no news. So there was there was a group of people in a kingdom that were expecting news, and they saw a young man running with speed, and they felt, oh, this person must be coming with news. And the person ran and came, and there was no news. So he was walking the walk, but there was no substance to his running. He was just looking like he was going somewhere. He was not going anywhere. And I'm sure you know some people like that. And an example of that is people that appear like they're interested, but they are not really interested. They're just time wasters. Nobody needs people like that in their space. And then we have the distinct prophets, and that will be a man called John, who distinctively wore animal skin and ate locusts and honey. So he was distinctive. So if you say, have you met this person? He's wearing animal skin, lives in the wilderness, eats locusts and honey. You probably say, oh, I think that is John. So he had a look about him. And this is what makes some people create a particular look about themselves. It might be a punk, it might be a particular cut, but that is the way they look, and that's the way they want to look and be presented. And we see a judge with a hammer. Once he puts the hammer in the courtroom, we know that he wants silence in the courtroom. So that is a look as well. A man with a maid, we see that a man with a maid, when they become closer, the talk becomes very soft, very gentle. Sometimes you cannot hear them even talking. They're saying things without even saying very much. And that is a kind of talk as well. And it's a kind of presentation. Rhymes, he might be rhyming to her. Okay, and then there's a young woman that was praying for a child. Her lips were moving, but it appeared like she was not saying anything. And those that were watching her, especially the priest in this case, thought she might have been drunk. And so he accosted her, and she defended herself that she was not drunk, but she had a heavy heart and was praying. So this is about sometimes how we appear is not really how we are. So she was not drunk, she was praying, but the presentation appeared like she was drunk. Today's examples will be people that are clean, the ones we want to meet, clean, well-spoken, good listeners, cheerful, cautious, smelling nice. I'm sure Sister Sophie has a lot to tell us after now. Little extras from me will be that we do not get a second chance to make a good first impression. Be intentional, be kind, continue to learn, continue to improve, and pray. And that's because, as I said, other people are involved and we don't have much jurisdiction over that. But because the heart of the king is in the hands of God, then we know that he can control the circumstance. And I'll just stop sharing now and let Sister Sophie take over.
All right, then. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I do hope everybody can hear me. If you can hear me or if you cannot hear me, just put something in the comment section and then I would read it. So very quickly, what I want to talk about is, first of all, all of us are professionals, and I know that in one way or the other, we have been in training, and so we've had different kinds of things said about presentation. Okay, so generally speaking, when you're talking about presentation, you're talking about communicating. Okay, you're communicating to another person, whether you're doing it intentionally or not intentionally, you're communicating, because just by being, right, people are interpreting you, they're reading you, they're trying to place you. You don't even need to do anything. All you need to do is just exist and breathe, and people are trying to place you. So generally speaking, presentation is a part of communication, yeah? And there are like 5 parts. You have the person sending the message, you have the person receiving the message, you have the message that is being sent, you have feedback that you get as a result of sending the message, right? And you have whatever medium or platform, that you're using, to send the message. So just a minute. All right then. So even though we've gotten a lot of training, right, about presentations, how does that apply in personal life? How does that apply in everyday living? You want to be the very best that you can be, and there are things that determine, the way people see us, the way people read us, the way people interpret who we are and what it is that they see about us. Number one, our background. Whether you like it or not, you come from somewhere, and your background is something that influences the way people interpret. The second thing is your personality, your temperament, your personality. You're quiet, you're outspoken, you're introvert, you're outrovert, you're extrovert, you are ambivert, you are whatever, personality profiling and psychological, psychometric, or what do they call it now, you doctors, testing, all of those things are real in a sense. And then, of course, your preferences, as a person, and some of the opportunities that life has afforded you. So what am I saying by all that grammar? Is really simple. If you come from, say, maybe you grew up in Southwest Nigeria, Ibadan to be precise, and you speak Yoruba, that's your background. Maybe your family, highly cultural, they speak in proverbs, parables, and all of that. It will determine and highly impact the way you see the world, right? And no matter where you go, that part of you is going to be there. That's background. Now your personality, what kind of a person are you? Maybe you are reserved, you don't talk much, you are very soft-spoken. That in itself will affect the way you approach life and the way life approaches you, okay? And then, like I said, some of the things that have happened to you now, your experiences, good, bad, trauma, maybe education, all of those things, they just contribute to making who you are. So what do you do? The first thing I always tell people is, when you're an adult, this is the way I am. This is the way I am. It's not good enough. And that's not what I'm saying. Maybe by nature or nurture, you are a bit, use strong language, right? And then if you're fortunate and you have friends that tell you that, the way you talk sometimes, don't say, hey, that's how I am. That's just me. No. Life is not like that. It's not like that. Or quiet, I'm shy, I don't talk much. See, I've not seen a shy person that made money by being shy in that sense. You understand? So many years ago, I decided I'm going to become what I need to become to achieve what I need to achieve. And I think that that's one of the, how to put it now, one of the luxuries that we have, first of all, as intellectuals, and then most importantly, as people, who believe in the power of God and his ability to make a difference in a person's life. You understand? So you can actually rise above your personality in a lot of ways. You can rise above your culture, your background, your prejudices in a lot of ways. Yes, there are a lot of things you may not really be aware of. But then again, sometimes you're aware of them, and many of us tend to explain them away. You understand? Or you say, no, that's how I am. And it's just my personality. That's how I talk. Maybe you're the type that your voice is very loud. Every time you come into a place, you just talk and, your voice is loud. You say, hey, that's how my voice is. No. Is there something that can just, don't take it personally. Is there something that can be done? And are you willing to do it? To make the necessary adjustments? If you don't like the outcomes in your life, maybe you get to a certain point and you don't like the results you are getting, then you might have to take a hard look and do that self-evaluation, check that self and say, okay, let's start with me. What can I fix? What can I change? What adjustment do I need to make? What do I need to learn? And then in that journey, you will encounter other things. You will know the part that is yours and the part that is for somebody else.